Reece Ramsey Johnson was found doubled over, laying in a pool of his own red. Sadly, the 22-year-old GU nman had armed himself with a sawn-off in an attempt to kill a rival outside a Lloyds bank in Sydenham, southeast London on September 8, 2019. Now, Reece's family was said to have been distraught beyond comprehension after they were told at an inquest that Reece Ramsey Johnson had killed himself in a failed gang killing. Now, Reece, full of adrenaline, had hyped himself up along with his mates and then stalked over to a blue Ford Fiesta with the sawn-off. It was already loaded. Reece had aligned himself with 3 other gangsters to try and track down a man called Marley Lucas after weeks and weeks of trying to find him. Now, this incident had all the telltale signs of gang issues and revenge. Marley Lucas had been acquitted by a jury in 2015 of the M of Nathan Morey, a good friend of Reece's. Now, Marley was instead charged with manslaughter after solicitors successfully argued self-defense. Marley was embattled with a K or be K'd situation, and he was the winner. Though Marley Lucas had effectively served his time in jail, Reece and others had planned to enact their own sense of justice. They wanted payback for their friend, and the only way that they could be even was if Marley Lucas would be wiped off this planet. That would be whenever they found him and whatever location he was in, and it just so happened that this would be outside a Lloyds bank, but it would fail because ultimately Marley Lucas was too quick for everyone involved. According to reports, Reece and 3 other gangsters had arrived at Marley's location in a Fiesta that had been fitted with false plates. All of the men were dressed in dark clothing with hoods and masks and gloves covering much of their faces and their hands in order to not leave any traces of DNA or prints. Then the man had camped near to the location of the crime scene for hours, waiting for Marley Lucas. At about 3:50 p.m. in the middle of a busy afternoon, 2 sawn-offs were produced, one held by Reece, loaded, ready to use, and at least 2 large blades were seen by pedestrians. Now, Reece and co had blocked in Marley's car in Venner Road, which was a dead-end street. As Reece approached, the item already extended to his chest, secured and aimed, Marley ducked for cover in his car and then managed to push the other car door open. Now, Marley had dove out of his car and then sprinted as fast as his legs could carry him down Sydenham High Street. He had weaved past pedestrians, ducking for cover as he ran, shouting for help. Now, he was chased by 2 other men, not Reece, whom were carrying large blades and still swiping at him, trying to put metal into you-know-what. Now, Marley sought refuge ultimately in a hair and beauty salon, and then he tried to barricade the door shut by using stools, chairs, desks, but the 2 rivals managed to get their way through before Marley could lock the door. Now, the 2 men thought that they could corner Marley. After all, he had no other chances to escape. However, in a quick attempt to enact their revenge, the 2 men had stumbled, trying to swipe at Marley, and in that quick time, Marley Lucas managed to escape again, running down the high street one more time after exiting the hair and beauty salon. Now, he managed to create some distance between himself and the people that were chasing him. Now, regarding Reece Ramsey Johnson, he was frustrated. Again, he was still pumped with adrenaline, and in an attempt to kill his rival, Reece Ramsey Johnson had struck the window with the butt. The window did not break on the first attempt. It was then alleged that a frustrated Reece may have launched the item. It bounced back from the window and then it went off. Pellets peppering Reece chest area, causing catastrophic injuries. The red would not stop flowing. Now, Reece's friends were caught on camera checking over Reece as he fell to the ground, shouting, "I think his himself," before looking at each other and then ultimately fleeing the scenes as witnesses had gathered. Now, witnesses described hearing a loud bang that resembled something louder than thunder. Now we know that was the sound of the cartridge going off. Now, police and emergency services had arrived at the scene after being blue lighted to the high street. They worked on Reece Ramsey Johnson in the middle of that street. However, there was nothing that they could do for him, and he was soon pronounced dead. Now, when police investigated the they concluded that Reece had died due to his own actions in a failed gang However, police still sought out Reece Ramsey Johnson's friends, and they wanted to try and hold them for the attempted charge of Marley Lucas. The prosecution gave the names of Reece's friends, all of them, and they were known as gangsters: Ty Simpson, Daniel Newhouse, and Tariq Williams, whom were all arrested and all denied a total of 8 charges against them, including the attempted possession of a sawn-off, also being in possession of the blades as well. Now again, Marley Lucas managed to preserve his own life because he had moved too quickly for Ramsey Johnson, Tariq Williams, and others. Now, according to the police who investigated the they says that having lost his prey, and no doubt out of frustration and anger, you can just imagine on the street the adrenaline that had built up from a person with a loaded sawn-off in their hands. Thereby, with his intended victim out of the car and now the car empty, he had struck out at the windscreen of Marley Lucas's abandoned car. He used the butt of the sawn-off, however, in a way he could never have expected. This action caused the sawn-off he had in his hands to go off, both barrels, and he was struck in the chest. The impact was immediate, and he had killed himself there on the road next to his intended victim's car. Now, Daniel Newman tried to help his dying friend, but he panicked and appeared to be in shock. Passerbyers also tried to help Reece Ramsey Johnson, the jury was told. Now, Daniel Newman took the sawn-off from the road and put it in a fiesta away from prying eyes. In regards to Ty Simpson and Tariq Williams, they returned along with Daniel Newman, and then they drove off in the fiesta that had already been fitted with cloned plates. They had left their friends Reece Ramsey Johnson behind on the street as he had died, because ultimately friendship can only take you so far. At the end of the day, their friends must have been distraught for Reece Ramsey Johnson and seeing him laying there in the street with red pooling. However, self-preservation is always at the forefront of everyone's mind. They did not want to be arrested or connected with the crime, because once arrested, they would have to answer questions such as what happened. And of course, as quote-unquote gangsters, nobody wanted to be named as a grass. Now, 2 unarmed officers who attended the scene, they had called for backup after seeing the sawn-off in Reece Ramsey Johnson's friend's hands. Everyone involved missed their target, and again, police and ambulance services did attend to Reece Ramsey Johnson, but unfortunately, they weren't able to save the 22-year-old's life. And it was a stark reminder that again, when people try to enact their own sense of justice or go on these gang revenge cases, again, these are the type of things that can happen. It can fail in a big, big way, meaning that everyone loses in the end. Stay safe, and condolences as always.